Sedens. Welcome.
Tonight on Sportsdesk, the Stanley Cup playoffs begin with a bang. The Canucks are looking for a miracle against the Kings. And the White Sox decide to take a gamble on Bo Jackson.
Sportsdesk is brought to you by Motomaster, Canada's #1 selling replacement parts, and by the people who know Canada best, Best Western Hotels, Motor Inns, and Resorts. Sportsdesk with Chris Sedens.
Welcome to Sportsdesk, everyone. Time to put everything else on ice, put the icing on the cake, shall we say. It is Stanley Cup playoff time, and we've got highlights from all the action on opening night. The Montreal Canadiens lost close to 380 man games to injury this regular season, the worst being to goaltender Patrick Roy. Add to that a very inexperienced defensive unit, and it is surprising the Canadiens were even contenders this year. It's the exact opposite story for the Buffalo Sabres, a team of underachievers this year who couldn't win on home ice and haven't won a playoff series in 7 years. Let's go to the action in the first period of the Montreal Forum. Sabres up 1-0. Grant Ledyard rips it from the point, deflected by Patrick Roy. 2:12 into the game. It's already 2-0. Pat Burns calls a timeout, trying to regroup his team, and they respond. Sylvain Lefebvre steps in over the line, blows his shot past Darren Pupa. 2-1, Sabres still in front. Later in the first, Habs blow this one wide open. First, it's Wes Courtnall on the power play. Then, Matt Schneider from the face-off circle, again on the power play. And finally, Mike McPhee with some great moves. Courtnall gets his second of the game on the pass. 3 goals for Montreal in 1 minute and 19 seconds, 4-2 Habs after a period. 2 minutes into the second, Stéphane Richer buzzing around, makes good on his second chance. Darren Pupa gives up 5 goals and 9 shots. He's out. Darcy Wakaluk is in. Still in the second, Habs are leading 5-3. They break in 2-on-1. Sprudley to Gilchrist, 6-3 Montreal. In the third period, the Sabres are now trailing 7-4. Kevin Haller with the race shot, it sails into the net. That's as close as Buffalo would get. 7-5. Montreal was the final. The Habs take a 1-0 lead in this series. It was Hogue, Ledyard, Turgeon, Rive, and Haller scoring for Buffalo. Lefebvre, Courtnall with the pair. Schneider, Richer, Gilchrist, and Savard scoring for Montreal. The Canadiens and Sabres are even at 11 wins each against each other in Stanley Cup play. Now let's move on to the Boston Garden. Mike Milbury and his Bruins home to the Hartford Whalers. And the Bruins get out to a quick start, 23 seconds in. Whalers sloppy in their own end. Dave Poulin to Ray Bourque. His shot goes off Jeff Lazero's skate. 1-0 Boston. Scary moment for the Whalers in the first period. Cam Neely collides with Peter Sidorkiewicz. Sidorkiewicz shaken up on the play, but he was able to remain in the game. Later in the period, Whalers will tie it up. John Cullen to Zarli Zalapski. He lets it go. Pat Verbeek gets the rebound. We're tied at 1. Now in the second, Whalers take the lead. Kevin Dineen behind the net, tries the old wraparound. Somehow this gets past Andy Moog, and it's 2-1 Whalers. Still in the second, nice passing by the Whalers. John Cullen to Pat Verbeek to Rob Brown, all alone in front of the net. There's Brown, Johnny on the spot. 3-1 Hartford. Late in the second, Ray Bourque feeds Petri Skriko. Skriko down the left side, scores from a tight angle, and it's 3-2 Whalers. Now in the third, 4-2 Whalers in front. Dean Evison down the wing. Evison will spot a wide-open Paul Cyr. Cyr will simply redirect the pass. 5-2 Hartford. It looks like the Bruins will have to go to the books on this one, just like this young lady did. 5-2 the final. An upset at the Boston Garden as the Whalers prevail. It was Verbeek, Dineen, Brown, Cullen, and Cyr for Hartford. Lazero and Skriko scoring for Boston. The Pittsburgh Penguins are kind of a trendy pick this year in your playoff pools. They've got a healthy Mario Lemieux, a renewed interest in defense, and the quality goaltending which is needed for the playoffs. The Penguins are overwhelming favorites against the New Jersey Devils in the first round, but remember, these are the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs, and usually does. Mario Lemieux looking to carry the Penguins further than they've ever gone before. First period, great chance for Mark Recchi, but Chris Terreri makes the big pad save. The game remains scoreless. Later, it's Terreri again. Makes a couple of nice stops from in close. No score after 20 minutes. Second period now. Paul Coffey will move around the net, feed to Mark Recchi. who finds Mario Lemieux, who squeaks it past Tereri, 1-0 Penguins. Later in the period, the Devils will tie it up. Peter Stastny will bang in the rebound. Game is tied at 1 after 2 periods. We now jump to the third period. The Devils will come alive. Peter Stastny
4 minutes into the third period. Stastny incredible.
Tries the wraparound and scores in the wraparound. Second of the night, 2-1 New Jersey. Just moments later, Laurie Boschman, 2-on-1, decides to hold on to the puck. Boschman in over the blue line, scores on the wrist shot, up high, 3-1 Devils. Another upset. Yeah. Second upset of the night. 3-1 Devils was the final score. New Jersey leads the series 1-0. Stastny with the pair for New Jersey. Boschman had the other. Mario Lemieux scoring for Pittsburgh. Next, Madison Square Garden in New York. The Capitals against the Rangers. The crowd waving white towels to get hyped for this one. Home side comes out hitting. Great hit. Troy Millette on Dmitry Kristich.
In the minor penalty.
We're playing playoff hockey. Second period now. Rangers open the scoring on a Caps giveaway. Jan Eriksson will slide it home. Great effort by Eriksson. 1-0 Rangers. Mike Richter playing strong in net for the Rangers. Watch here as he will stop Mike Ridley after he hits the goalpost. Still in the second period, Chris King is hit into the Washington bench. Solid body check goes in, and now he gets stuck. His sweater gets caught in the bench. He can't leave. No penalty is called. Late in the second now. Another Caps giveaway. Brian Mullen, Bernie Nichols make them pay. Bernie Nichols drills it past Beaupre. 2-0 Rangers after 40 minutes. Third period now. The Caps close to within 1. John Bruce can't find the handle, but Mikhail Pavanka bangs in the rebound. Washington down 2-1, and as close as they would come as the clock runs out. I mean, the Rangers win this game 2-1 is the final score. Pavanka getting the only goal for Washington. Eriksson and Nichols scoring for the Rangers. The Capitals ousted the Rangers in 5 games in the division final last season after New York won the first game of the series. The Campbell Conference playoffs begin tomorrow night, and our TSN coverage continues with a Norris Division matchup. We've got
2, 1.
Today on Sports Desk, could the Canucks be rewriting the playoff script in Hollywood? Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings are primed for an upset of the Blues. And the Expos oil can boy, can he repeat with another successful season in '91?
Sports Desk with Chris Sedens.
Welcome to Sports Desk, everyone. Also coming up in the next half hour, Pinball Clemens says he wants big money from the Argos next season, and the Expos get rained on in Florida. But first, to another wild night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of all the teams competing for the Stanley Cup this year, the Vancouver Canucks are the longest of long shots. Las Vegas oddmakers list them at 100-1. But if there's one thing we've come to learn from the Canucks over the years is that they are a different team come playoff time. The most recent example came 2 years ago when they pushed the Calgary Flames to overtime in the 7th and deciding game of their Smythe Division semifinal. Thursday night, the Canucks against Wayne Gretzky and the Los Angeles Kings at the Great Western Forum in L.A. Let's go there now. What is wrong with this picture? Tom Webster is missing. He is out with a 2-game suspension. Cap Raider calling the shots for the Kings. First period, Canucks get out to a quick start. Dave Capuano picks up a rebound, puts it past Kelly Rudy. 1-0 Vancouver. Then, Canucks strike again. Sergio Momesso to Igor Larionov. He goes to the backhand, pretty goal, slides it past Rudy, 2-0 Canucks early. Now, still in the first, 2-1 Canucks is the score. Gord Donnelly down the left wing, centers in front to Bob Kudelski. He redirects it past Troy Gamble, and we're tied at 2. To the second period now, the Kings take their first lead of the game. Kudelski's shot will be blocked. Steve Kasper finds the loose puck at the side of the net, and the Kings now lead 4-3. Late in the second, Luc Robitaille crashes into Troy Gamble hard, puts the puck in before hitting the net, knocking it off its moorings. The goal counts, and it's 4-3 Kings. Now, cue the Canucks comeback. First, it's Jeff Courtnall, who moves in. Courtnall cuts in, goes to the forehand. Nice shot. completes the hat trick. We're tied at 5. And then Cliff Ronning over the line. Moves into the high slot, fakes, and then blasted past Rudy, and the Canucks stun the Kings, winning this game. Here is the shot by Ronning.
And Ronning uses McSorley.
6-5 is the final score. It was Capuano, Lariana, Courtnall with the hat trick, and Ronning with the game winner for Vancouver. Scoring for Los Angeles, it was Sandstrom, Kudelski, Gretzky, Kasper, and Robitaille. So the Kings won the regular season series 5-3, but they lose game 1 of their Smythe Division semifinal, the first of the upsets tonight. Next, Edmonton against Calgary. You want to be a coach, what do you do here? Last year's MVP, Bill Ramford or Grant Fuhr? Who starts? They started Fuhr in net. Flames on the power play. Puck goes to Gary Suter off the draw. He gets it over to Al McInnes. His blast sweeps past Fuhr. 1-0 Calgary. As expected, a very physical battle. Esa Tikkanen and Theron Fleury go at it here. And then Jeff Bokaboom lays the body on Gary Roberts. Now, late first period, Oilers tie this game up. Peter Klima leaves it for Esa Tikkanen. His shot, a rocket past Mike Vernon, ties the game at 1. Now to the second, and the score is tied at 1. Esa Tikkanen gets it out front to Peter Klima. Klima one-times it past Vernon, and it's 2-1 Edmonton. Just over 5 minutes to go in the third period. The Oilers add to their lead. Glenn Anderson on the old wraparound. It doesn't go in, but Craig Simpson is right there to put it in. 3-1 Edmonton. That's the way this one finishes. Tikkanen, Klima, and Simpson scoring for Edmonton. McInnes with the only goal for Calgary after 8 regular season games, plus this one. The teams are now all even on the year. 4 wins apiece and 1 tie.
It was a tight hockey game, and you know, that wears on your nerves a little bit, and to get that third one really eased the tension and enabled us to just stick to our game plan and not take any chances. So, you know, you're always looking to get that goal that puts you up by 2, and it was fortunate that it came so late in the game that it didn't give them a chance to get back into it.
The Chicago Blackhawks finished first overall this season, 38 points ahead of the Minnesota North Stars in the North. But for some reason, when the topic of upsets comes up, many of the experts say it could happen in this series. The Hawks are coming off a very grueling battle with St. Louis for first place in the North Division and are without veteran forward Michel Goulet. He is out with a knee injury. As for the North Stars, they are much improved late in the season. After the All-Star break, they really came on and are getting some stellar goaltending from John Casey, somewhat underrated in net for the Stars. 13 seconds into the game, Chris Chelios, his shot is stopped. Jeremy Romanuk gets the rebound. Blackhawks lead early. It's 1-0. A minute later, John Casey tries to clear the puck. Dirk Graham drives him into the boards hard. A 5-minute major for Graham, and the Stars go on the power play, and they connect on the power play. Scramble in front of the net. Mark Tenorti bangs home the loose puck. Game is tied at 1. Less than a minute later, on the same power play, Neil Broughton lets the shot go. It beats Ed Belfour. The Stars take a 2-1 lead. Now to the second period. Game is tied at 2. Brian Bellows and Bobby Smith all alone in front of the net. Belfour comes up with the big save, and the fans love it. They let him know, Eddie, listen. And that gave the Hawks some momentum. Chelios, great pass to Graham in front. Graham was simply redirected past John Casey. The Hawks regain the lead. It's now 3-2. But the Stars stop that momentum. Sean Chambers to Neil Broughton. Broughton picks the short side, and this game is tied at 3. We're headed for overtime. And in overtime, Mark Tenorti's shot will be stopped, but Brian Propp will be there to bang home the rebound. The Stars pull off the upset as they beat Chicago 4-3 in overtime. It was Broughton with the pair, Tenorti and Propp with the others for Minnesota. Rowanuk, Wilson, and Graham scoring for Chicago. Broughton had 3 points on the night for the North Stars. Next, Detroit against St. Louis. Crazy Claude and the rest of the Blues fans psyched up for this game. But in the first period, the Blues didn't appear to be. Detroit controlled the play. Paul Eisbart flips the puck ahead. Steve Yzerman redirects it, but it goes just wide. Minutes later, the Wings are in deep. Kevin Miller back to Brad McCrimmon at the point, and his shot goes in off Adam Oates' skate. It's 1-0 Detroit. Now on to the second period. It's Detroit again. This time, Bob Probert off the boards to Yzerman. He comes out front, slides it past Riendeau. 2-0 Detroit. Outstanding second period for Steve Yzerman. Already with one goal, he camps out in front of the slot, in front of the goal, in the slot area, takes the centering pass and simply one-times the shot. That makes it 3-0 Red Wings. Detroit managed to control Brett Hull in this game, at least in the first half of the game, but late in the second, it's Adam Oates to Hull, who takes the far corner. Blues down 3-1 after 2. Tim Cheveldae having a great game in net for Detroit. Early in the third, he will stop Garth Butcher, plus the rebound, plus a third shot. With Detroit up 5-2 late in the period, the Blues crept closer on the power play. Oates tips in a pass from Hull, and it's a 5-3 game. But just minutes later, Yzerman again, this time on the off wing. Steve Yzerman moves in and takes the shot to the short side past Pat Jablonski, who was in replacing Riendeau in goal. Hat trick for Stevie Y as the Red Wings upset St. Louis 6-3. McCrimmon with the other goal for Detroit. Fedorov and Miller scoring for Detroit. Yzerman with the hat trick. Hull had a pair for St. Louis. Adam Oates had the other. It was Yzerman's second career playoff hat trick. The Montreal Canadiens will carry a 1-0 series lead as they face the Sabres.
Tonight on Sports Desk, it's night number 3 in the playoffs. Would the upsets continue? The Devils go for 2 in a row in Pittsburgh. And Pete Rose is a step closer to getting his life back on track.
Sports Desk is brought to you by the people who know Canada best. Best Western Hotels, Motor Inns, and Resorts. Sports Desk with Teresa Hergert.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk. Also ahead, news from baseball as opening day approaches, and Canadian welterweight Donovan Boucher. He's getting ready to defend his Commonwealth title. We had a chat with him. But first to hockey, and the story of the playoffs so far has been upset. All 4 divisional leaders have lost their opening games, and tonight they were looking to turn things around. Well, we'll start things off in the Adams division, Montreal and Buffalo. The Sabres blew a 2-0 lead against the Canadiens in the opening game of this series and ended up losing this one in a shootout 7-5. Well, Sabres coach Rick Dudley wasn't happy with the work of his forwards or his defense and promised changes in Game 2. Pat Burns hoping for a better defensive effort from his squad. First period, Rick Vaive puts it back to Yuri Krupe. He heads to the net. He takes a shot. Rick Vaive was bothering Rouen there, and it is 1-0 for Buffalo. Some physical play in this game. Matt Schneider hammers Alexander McGillney behind the net. And even coach Rick Dudley couldn't believe that one. Now in the second, the Habs tie it up. Brent Gilchrist picks up the bouncing puck, puts this one past Krupa. That ties the game up at 1. A few minutes later, Montreal takes the lead. Stephane Richer to Guy Carbonneau, to Mike McPhee, and then it is 2-1 for the Canadiens. But the Sabres come right back. Patrick Roy makes the first save on McGillney, then he loses the puck. Pierre Turgeon puts it in. That ties the score up at 2. So in the third, Buffalo now up 4-3. Stephane Richer comes up the ice, tees it up from the blue line. He beats Krupa. That ties the game up at 4. But late in the third, Mike McPhee puts the backhander wide in off the boards, comes right to Guy Carbonneau, puts it in the net, and the Canadiens win their second game of this series 5-4. Scoring for Montreal, it was McPhee, Gilchrist, Portnoy, Richer, and Carbonneau. For Buffalo, it was Krupe, Turgeon, Howardchuk, and Shannon. In fact, Guy Carbonneau, Mike McPhee, and Dale Howardchuk all had 3 points on the night. On to the other Adams semi. Hartford looking to go up 2 games on Boston. And just like in Game 1, Boston strikes early. 13 seconds into the game, Glenn Wesley's shot tipped in by Petru Skriko. Made it 1-0 for the Bruins. But minutes later, Hartford's Mark Hunter, he blasts one here from the blue line. Moe can't handle that one. And this game is tied up at 1. It was a physical first period. Boston's Jim Weimer dumps Todd Krieger right into the penalty box. He was okay, though. Midway through this period, Dave Poulin fights his way in, makes the move, but Peter Sidorkowicz pokes that away. Late in the first, some dirty play here by Nevin Marquardt. He knees John Cullen. Cullen was okay, but Marquardt got 2 minutes while he was in the box. Darley Zalatsky dropped it for Pat Verbeek. He puts it up in, and Hartford goes up 2-1. Early in the second period, Moog takes out his frustration on Verbeek, but there was no call on the play, so midway through the second, Bruins now on the power play. Ray Bourque over to Cam Neely, puts it past Sidorkowicz, ties the game up at 2. Hartford added another and led 3-2 after 2, but in the third, bouncing puck around the Whaler net, Neely slides in, scores, and the score now tied up at 3. Late in the third, the momentum clearly with the Bruins. They complete the comeback. Neely scores his third of the game. A hat-trick for Neely as the Bruins edge Hartford 4-3 and tie the series at a game apiece. So scoring for Boston, it was Skriko and Neely with 3. That is Neely's second career playoff hat-trick. For Hartford, it was Hunter, Verbeek, and Ladouceur. Craig Janney and Ken Hodge added 2 assists apiece for the Bruins. Well, in this postseason of upsets, one of the biggest had to be New Jersey's win over Pittsburgh in Game 1. The Devils checked the high-flying Penguins right to a standstill. Tonight, in the second matchup, New Jersey knew that they'd have to be all over Mario Lemieux again if they hoped to make it 2 in a row. Early in this game, we've got John Morris to John McLean. McLean lets last go, and the Devils lead 1-0. Later on in the period, Mario Lemieux to Mark Recchi. Then over to Kevin Stevens. Stevens puts it past Chris Teresa. That ties the game up at 1. Early in the second period, McLean and Morris hook up again. McLean puts it past Barrasso. That's his second of the game, and the Devils now lead 2-1. Later in the period, Ulf Danielsson leans into Peter Stastny. He crashes into the boards. And for the score, 3-2 Devils, Brian Trottier to Phil Bourque. Bourque one-times it past Ferrari, and that ties the game up at 3. Early in the third, Gordy Roberts over to Stevens. His shot is stopped. Troy Loney gets the rebound, and the Penguins take a 4-3 lead. And just 45 seconds later, Boschman to Kasatonov. He one-times it past Barrasso, and this ties the game up at 4. So on to overtime we go, and the Penguins fans have got their rally towels on. Jaromir Jagr heading down the wing. He's got the great effort here, puts it past Tereri, and the Penguins win 5-4 in overtime. Scoring for Pittsburgh, it was Stevens, Coffey, Bourque, Loney, and Jagr. For New Jersey was McLean with 2, Shanahan and Kasatonov. Mario Lemieux and Mark Recchi each had a pair of assists for the Penguins. Now we'll take you to Madison Square Garden, and El Iafrate back in the Caps lineup for Game 2 with the Rangers. Emotional exhaustion forgotten just seconds into the game. Joey Kosher drops the gloves. He's ready to go. But Neil Sheehy says, no way. The Rangers end up with 2 penalties, and Sheehy, well, he has the last laugh because on the ensuing power play, El Iafrate finds Geno Ciccarelli, one-times it past Mike Richter, and the Caps lead it 1-0. No love lost between these two teams. Ciccarelli delivers the elbow to David Shaw. So Shaw gets up, and he retaliates with a punch to the head. Down he goes. Late in the first, Mike Gardner gets a great chance up and close, but Don Beaupre slams the door. 1-0 Washington. Second period, Chris King steps out of the penalty box, but Beaupre comes up with another big stop. Then Darren Turcotte in close, can't get it past Beaupre. Just an outstanding display between the pipes. Third period, Caps shorthanded. Mike Ridley moves down the wing, waits, feeds Kelly Miller, and made it 2-0 for the Caps. Michael Pavanka scored into an empty net. Gives Washington a 3-0 win. Scoring for Washington, it was Ciccarelli, Miller, and Pavanka. Don Beaupre turned aside 35 shots for the shutout. That is his 4th within the last month. And El Iafrate picked up 2 assists for the Caps. Now here's something often. The NHL supervisor of officiating, John D'Amico, well, he apologized to the Calgary Flames. Last night against the Oilers, Joe Nieuwendyke's tying goal was waved off by referee Dan Maruelli. D'Amico said that the replays clearly showed that the puck was in, so would it have made a difference? Well, it's tough to say, but Saturday night, the Flames will be looking to even the score. The Oilers lead this best-of-7 series 1-0. The Los Angeles Kings should borrow a page from the Flames game book. The Vancouver Canucks can be a dangerous team.
Today on Sports Desk, can the Road Warriors continue to confuse the Stanley Cup playoff picture? Major League umpires stage a strike 2 days prior to the opening of the season. And an enthusiastic preview of the Montreal Expos 1991 edition.
Sports Desk with Teresa Hergert.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. We've got a busy half hour ahead, so we'll get right to it. First up, we'll take a look at the Smythe and the North semifinals. And who would have ever thought the Vancouver Canucks clawed their way into the final playoff spot in the Smythe, then upset the Kings in the first game of the series. The Canucks checked L.A. to a standstill, especially in the third period of the game when the Kings could only manage 2 shots on goal. Well, Saturday night it was Game 2. The Kings looking to come away from the Forum with the split. And they hoping to win this game. Early in the first, the Kings with the chance. Tony Granato snaps one, but Troy Gamble makes a stick save. Then midway through the period, the Canucks on the power play. Tom Curver's shot from the point. It hits Marty McSorley. And that's 1-0 after 1. 31 seconds into the second period, Cliff Ronnie was left alone out in front. He beats Kelly Rudy. That made it 2-0 for Vancouver. But minutes later, the Kings answer back. Dave Taylor, he's stopped here by Troy Gamble. But Rob Blake puts in the loose puck, and the Kings trail by 1 at this point. 2-1 the score. Early in the third, the Kings keep coming on. Todd Ellick, he feeds Luke Robitaille. And Robitaille one times at home. That ties the score up at 2. And it stayed tied through regulation. Then in overtime, John Tonali tries to jam it in, but the puck didn't cross the goal line. Game is still tied. Minutes later, Gamble. Here he stops Sandstrom and Granato, but Wayne Gretzky flips in the loose puck. The Kings come from behind to beat Vancouver 3-2 in overtime. That ties the series up at 1. Scoring for the Kings, it was Blake, Robitaille, and Gretzky with the game winner. And for Vancouver, it was Curvers and Ronnie. Now we'll take you to Edmonton and Calgary. A solid first period for Doug Risebrough and the Flames. Early on, Joe Nieuwendyk trying to fire up his team. He hits Kevin Lowe right into the boards. He had bodies flying everywhere in the first. Stefan Matteau takes out Glenn Anderson, and he takes out referee Kerry Fraser. Midway through the period, the Flames on the power play. Mark Messier's pass picked off by Gary Suter. He blows one past Grant Fuhrer, and that made it 1-0 for the Calgary Flames. Early in the second, the Flames go up by a pair. Theron Fleury stopped by Fuhrer, but Doug Gilmour puts in the rebound. That made it 2-0 for the Flames. Minutes later, Edmonton's Adam Graves goes to net. His first shot is stopped, but the rebound goes in off of Museal's skate. The Oilers down by 1-2 on the score. 43 seconds later, Calgary comes right back. Paul Ranheim snaps it past. That made it 3-1 for the Flames. So late in the second, Messier gets Rick Natras there. Natras stands up. He's a little shaken up, managed to wobble his way back to the bench. Moving to the third, the Flames still up 3-1. Messier in all alone. Down he goes, but Vernon stones him on that one. Vernon's rating goal for Calgary. The Flames tie this series at a game apiece with a 3-1 win. Scoring for the Flames, it was Suter, Gilmour, and Ranheim, and the lone Edmonton goal was Adam Graves. Well, it was an undisciplined team of Blackhawks that faced the North Stars Thursday night. Minnesota was handed 11 power play opportunities and went on to win the first game of the series. Saturday night in Game 2, Mike Keenan promised it would be the Chicago team of old, the squad that finished as the top team during the regular season. And Chicago comes out playing physical in this one. Jeremy Roenick slams into Kurt Giles. The Blackhawks score the only goal of the first. Chris Chelios makes the nice pass to Steve Larmer down low. Larmer beats John Casey. And that is 1-0 for the Blackhawks. Then in the second period, Chicago's power play starts to click. Warren Reichel tees it up. The rebound goes to Roenick. 2-0 for Chicago. All game long, the Blackhawks mockingly goaded the Stars into taking some bad penalties. So later in the period, Casey gets caught dumping Roenick. So the Hawks go on the power play, and Chicago does not waste it. Roenick makes a nice move over in the corner. Then he feeds Reichel out in front. That is his first playoff goal. That made it 3-0 for the Hawks. Ed Belfour holding the Stars at bay. Here he's stopping Mike Modano on the backhand. Possible shutout for him. We will see later on in the third. The Hawks break out on a 2-on-1. Pair of Steves work their magic. It's Thomas to Conroy. 4-0 Chicago through 2. But when that's finished, we had ourselves a 5-2 final. Scoring for the Blackhawks, it was Larmer with the pair. Roenick, Reichel, and Conroy. For Minnesota, it was McRae and Bellows. And that ties the series up at 1. Now we'll take you to St. Louis and Detroit. Bill McCreary, the story of the first period. He called penalty after penalty. Harold Snaps is in the penalty box. Two-man advantage. Yves Racine scores from inside the line. That made it 1-0 for the Red Wings. Later on in the period, Detroit 2 men short. This time Tim Chevrolet comes up big. He stops Tuttle out in front. Then Adam Oates at point-blank range. Still 1-0 Red Wings. Later on in the first, the Red Wings strike again. Bob Probert at the side of the net. He bangs it in. And the score 2-0 Detroit after 20 minutes of play. Second period now, Tim Chevrolet continues to shine. Ron Wilson over to Scott Stevens. Chevrolet makes the stop. Later on in the period, Mario Marois sends Brett Hall in all alone, but even the golden Brett is stopped by Cheveldae. Still 2-0 Detroit. Third period, the Blues explode. First, Jeff Brown from the point. That made it 2-1 for the Red Wings. Then we've got Dan Quinn here on this spinorama. Great little move there. That ties the game up at 2. Then Brett Hall, where he pounces on a loose puck. And St. Louis completes an incredible comeback to tie the series at 1. That goal made it 3-2. He added another 4-2 the final. Scoring for the Blues, it was Brown, Quinn, Hall, and Sutter. For Detroit, it was Racine and Probert. It was quite the night in the Adams and Wales Conference semis on Friday. Boston and Pittsburgh 1-0.
Tonight on Sports Desk, Rick Dudley hopes his saber rattling can save Buffalo. New Jersey tries to once again bedevil Pittsburgh at the Meadowlands. And the Blue Jays, a new look, but the same old high hopes.
Sports Desk, brought to you by Mazda. It just feels right. And by Gillette Sensor, for the best shave a man could get. Sports Desk with Gord Miller.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Sports Desk. Also coming up in this half hour, Major League umpires appear likely to sit out opening day while Jack Nicklaus gets ready for the Masters. But first, the Habs looks to go up 3-0 on the struggling Buffalo Sabres. After losing the first 2 games in Montreal, the Sabres were hoping a change of venue and a change of attitude would be enough to turn the series around. The smaller ice surface at the odds certainly does help the Sabres, but a bigger effort from the Stars is what Buffalo really needed. Rick Dudley made no secret of that fact Saturday when he publicly questioned the heart of some Sabres. So it was up to Andreychuk, Turgeon, and McGillney to get Buffalo back in the series and get themselves out of the doghouse. And Buffalo comes out flying in this game as it had to. Tony Tanti pokes in the rebound under a sprawling Patrick Roy. 2:20 going into the game. It's 1-0 Buffalo. Later in the first, it's 1-1. Buffalo executes the perfect give and go. Snuggerud back to Christian Ruutu. 2-1 Sabres. The Habs quickly tie it. Denny Savard springs Brent Gilchrist, who moves in and puts on the great move. This ties the game at 2. Second period now. Score is tied at 3. Alexander McGillney feeds Grant Ledyard, who cranks it by Patrick Roy. 4-3 in favor of Buffalo. With 2 minutes to play in the second period now, Habs break in on the 2-on-1. Russ Courtnall hits the iron, but Gilchrist is there for his second of the game, 4th of the playoffs, 4-4 after 2. Early third now. Robert Ray spots Mike Ramsey cruising in the slot. Parsons fans of the shot, but it fools Waugh. 5-4 in favor of the Sabres. Pat Burns takes timeout, calls a last gas play. Montreal gets the last gas. Courtnall left all alone, but Malarchuk gets a piece. And Buffalo hangs on to win this game by a final score of 5-4. So it's back in the series now as Buffalo trails at 2-1. Gilchrist scored twice for Montreal. Courtnall and Corson had the others. Tanti, Ruutu, Hogue, Ledyard, and Ramsey score for Buffalo. Alexander McGillney added a pair of assists for the Sabres. On now to the Civic Center in Hartford. Mike Milbury and the Bruins looking to go up 2-1 in their series against the Whalers. First period, Ken Hodge to Ray Bourque, who lets the shot go, beats Peter Sidorkovich, and the Bruins lead it 1-0. Second period now, the Whalers come back. John Cullen to Pat Verbeek, whose shot goes in off the skate, and the game is tied at 1. Later in the period, Bruins on the power play. Glenn Wesley's shot is stopped, but his second shot goes in off Todd Richards. The Bruins regain the lead 2-1. Third period now. The game is tied at 2. Jeff Sanderson gives up the puck. That's a mistake. Gary Galley makes no mistake. The Bruins go up 3-2. And then just 18 seconds later, Jim Weimer's shot goes wide. Randy Burge grabs it, feeds Dave Christian. He one-times it, and the Bruins are up 4-2. Later in the period, Don Sweeney, great moves here. He gives Boston a 5-2 lead. And the Bruins win this one decisively to go on to take it by a final of 6-3. Bourque, Wesley, Galley, Christian, Sweeney, and Jenny score for the Bruins. Hunter, Verbeek, and Yake score for the Hartford Whalers. Marchiani added 2 assists for the Bruins, who now lead this series 2-1. In the Patrick division, the Penguins needed an overtime goal from Jaromir Jagr just to gain a split in the first 2 games of their series against the Devils. And even though the Penguins finished first in the Patrick division, the Meadowlands, not their favorite place to play. The Penguins lost all 3 games they played in New Jersey this season. They need a win tonight to retake the upper hand in this series. Taking out of the Meadowlands, Joey Mullen in the Penguin lineup for the first time in months. First period, Penguins on the power play. Mario Lemieux and Mark Murphy, he bangs it home, 1-0 Pittsburgh. Later in the first, the Devils tie it, also on the power play. Peter Stastny to John McClain. He's stopped, but Brendan Shanahan grabs the rebound, ties the game at 1. Later in the first, great chance for Pittsburgh. Check this out, Ron Francis and Joey Mullen, 2 of the great scorers in the game. How did this puck not go in the net? Second period, though, Penguins retake the lead. Lemieux to Bob Airy, who beats Tereri, and it's 2-1 Pittsburgh. Tom Barrasso solid in the Penguin goal. Robs Claude Lemieux from the sharp angle here, keeps it 2-1 Pittsburgh. But it doesn't stay that way for long. Pittsburgh giveaway results in the goal. Bruce Driver to John McClain to Brendan Shanahan. Beautiful passing here. The goal ties the game at 2 after 2. Third period now, Penguins up 3-2, and on the power play, Doug Brown lets the shot go that Barrasso can't handle. Ties the game at 3. Late in the game now, under a minute to go, Eric Weinrich with the high bouncing puck, can't handle it. Mark Recchi grabs it and slides it by Tereri. 4-3 Penguins. Weinrich will be up all night thinking about that one as Pittsburgh wins it by a final score of 4-3 to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Recchi scored twice, including the game winner for Pittsburgh. Airy and Mullen had the others. Shanahan scored 2 for Jersey. Doug Brown had the others. Only the Penguins' second win in their last 8 trips to New Jersey. Mario Lemieux and Paul Coffey each had 2 assists for the Penguins. On out of the Cap Center, Roger Nielsen hoping to get his anemic power play going. The Rangers were 0 for 13 in the power play coming into this one. 8 minutes in, Rangers break in 3-on-1. Chris King with a rocket over the shoulder of Dom Beaupre. First goal Beaupre had given up in over 90 minutes, 1-0 Rangers. At the other end, Mike Richter stones the Cap. 2 great pad saves here. Then he robbed Geno Cicerelli and Mike Ridley from in close. In game number 2, Beaupre was the story. Here it is Richter. Final minute of the first now. Rangers on the power play. Bernie Nichols to Mike Gartner, who slides it past Beaupre, and the drought is over. New York's first power play goal of the series. 2-0 Rangers after 1. Second period now. Joey Kosher, great feed to Nichols, who finds the corner. 3-0 Rangers. Third period. New York up 4-0. Randy Moeller's shot is stopped, but Nichols bangs the rebound past Mike Liut. Second of the game, third of the playoffs, 5-0. Then frustration sets in. Alan May and David Shaw go at it. May decides to toss, and Shaw elects to receive in this one. May wins the battle big time, but the Rangers win the game big time as well. The final score 6-0 in favor of New York. Nichols scored twice. Jansen's, King, Gartner, and Turcotte scored the Ranger goals. Mike Richter makes 37 saves for the shutout. Bernie Nichols, 4 points on the night. Joey Kosher and Brian Leach added 2 assists apiece for New York. The hardest hitting of all first-round series has been, not surprisingly, the Battle of Alberta between Edmonton and Calgary. After a day off to ice their wounds, the Oilers and Flames are back on the ice Monday night with the series tied at a game apiece. The series has belonged to goaltenders thus far, and as the scene shifts to Edmonton, it seems both teams are digging in for a long, tough series.
We definitely have to build on this, and I think that there's still some things that we have to do better, and hopefully this is just a stepping stone to our goals. And we just have to keep improving as a hockey club. As you go on in the series, I think the series gets tougher. It's harder. It's a longer grind, and there's no doubt Edmonton's a great hockey club, and they've proved that. And it's going to take even a better hockey club to beat them, and we realize that. We just have to concentrate 100% and just put our nose to the grindstone.
I think we're going to play better at home, and I think we're going to put more on offense and play strong defensively. We played these last couple of games, and we'll be in good shape.
You can bet the fans in Vancouver are primed for Game 3 of the other Smythe Division semifinal. The Canucks have been with L.A. every step of the way, and it took an overtime goal by Wayne Gretzky just to pull L.A. even in the series. In the North Division, the Blackhawks and the North Stars...
Division semifinals. Catch the fire. It's the NHL tonight on TSN. Today on
on Sportsdesk. The hits just keep on coming as the Oilers and Flames continue to play a classic. The hits are hard to come by as Dennis Martinez pitches an opening day beauty. And one big hit spoils the Blue Jays' opening day party.
Sportsdesk with Gord Miller.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Sports Desk. Also coming up in this half hour, umpires say fair to the deal offered by Major League Baseball, and we'll have our TSN Plays of the Week. But first, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Edmonton and Calgary continue the hit parade. With their chin straps buckled and their game faces on, the Oilers and Flames went back at it Monday. This time the game played at Edmonton, where the change of venue was not likely to change the type of game these two were going to play against each other. And while much has been made of the rough nature of the series, the games have also been very entertaining, highlighted by great goaltending. The Oilers were expected to give Bill Ranford his first playoff start, but went instead with Grant Fuhr, a capacity crowd of the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, showing its approval for the defending champions. Early on, Jamie McCowan lines up Craig Simpson and drills him. Simpson was penalized for something he did earlier in the play. With the Flames in the power play, Al McGinnis takes the shot. It's tipped in by Joe Nieuwendyk, and it's 1-0 Calgary. But just 11 seconds later, Paul Ranheim turns over the puck in his own zone. Essatikinen makes him pay, drills it by Mike Vernon. Game tied at 1. Later in the period, Theoren Fleury comes to the Calgary bench needing some attention. He's got the bloody mouth, courtesy of Charlie Huddy, who got his stick up on Fleury. Another rough period, 1-1 after 1. With a score tied at 2 in the second, Joe Nieuwendyk makes a couple of nice moves, sets up Gary Roberts, who beats Grant Fuhr. 3-2 Flames after 2. But Fuhr kept Edmonton in the game. Roberts' shot hits the post before Fuhr robs Nieuwendyk with his glove. Later in the period, Craig Simpson sends Glenn Anderson in all alone. Anderson was stoned by Vernon on a breakaway in Game 2, but beats him here and ties the game at 3. Now, final seconds of the third period. Mark Messier to Craig Simpson to Joe Murphy, who fights off Stepan Matteau and snaps one between the legs of Vernon with just 14 seconds left. That is the game winner as Edmonton beats Calgary 4-3. Tikkanen, Huddy, Anderson, and Murphy score for Edmonton. Nieuwendyk, Matteau, and Roberts for the Flames. But it's the Oilers who lead this series 2-1.
Disappointing, going into the third period and tough building like this and allowing them to score the 2 goals that they did. I think we sat back too much in the third and it was our own faults for throwing this one away.
Well, I think we deserved to win. I actually thought we could have won the game before that. I thought we had some tough luck in the first 2 periods. I thought we outchanced them in the first 2 periods. And then we came on strong again in the third period, and they played well. There's no question about that. But I just felt that we outplayed them.
On now to the other Smythe Division semifinal. Tom Webster back behind the LA bench as the Kings took on the Canucks. First period, Igor Larionov to Greg Adams, who misses the wide-open net. Midway through the period, Trevor Linden cuts in. He's stopped. Cliff Ronning gets the rebound, but he can't beat Kelly Rudy, who's keeping LA in the game at this point. 41 seconds into the second, Canucks on the power play. Ronning gets the puck along the board, steps in, and beats Kelly Rudy upstairs. That makes it 1-0. The Canucks were all over Wayne Gretzky in this one. Doug Litzter was on the ice almost every time Gretzky was, and he stuck very close to the great one over the first 40 minutes of play. Kirk McLean in goal for Vancouver, a kind of a surprise starter, hadn't played in over a month, but didn't show any signs of being rusty. Nice glove save here to rob Steve Duchesne in the second period. Now, midway through the third, the Canucks are still up 1-0, but John Tonelli hustles after the loose puck, centers to Gretzky, and this time Litzter can't contain the great one as Gretzky scores the goal to tie the game at 1 and send it to overtime. And in overtime, just 3 minutes into the extra period, Dana Merzen shot his stop, and Cliff Ronning is there for the rebound and tucks it into the open net. Vancouver, in front of a delirious hometown crowd, beats LA 2-1 in overtime and takes a 2-1 series lead. Cliff Ronning scores both Vancouver goals. Wayne Gretzky scores the goal for Los Angeles, and that goal for Gretzky ties him with Yari Curry for the all-time in 7 games last year. And 2 years ago, it was the Oilers who blew a 3-1 lead and lost to the Kings in 7 games. So there was still a lot of work to be done in this series, and Grant Fuhr been doing great work for the Oilers. He got the start again in Game 5. First period, Flames in the power play. Gary Suter to Al McGinnis, who puts it by Fuhr. The Flames, in a familiar position, lead 1-0. They'd scored the first goal in every game of the series. They scored 2-0 Flames. Craig Simpson to Glenn Anderson. Nice backhand. Boy, it looks like the Anderson of old in this year's playoffs. The Oilers trail 2-1. 2 minutes later, Adam Graves gets behind Gary Suter, who can't bring Graves down. Graves picked the tough corner on Vernon. The game is tied at 2. Second period, Theron Fleury to Kerry Wilson, who beats Fuhrer stick side, and the Flames are up 3-2. Just over a minute later, Rick Natras from the board. His centering pass goes in off the skate of Oiler defenseman Kevin Lowe. Flames take a 4-2 lead on that big goal. Still in the second. Mark Messier goes in alone. Vernon makes the save. Messier gets his own rebound, and the Oilers trail 4-3. Less than a minute to play in the third. The Oilers putting on the pressure. But Joe Murphy can't find the handle in front. Then it's Peter Kleeman in front. Calgary clears the puck, and the Flames avoid elimination. Flames at an empty net goal and win it by a final score of 5-3. Kerry Wilson